County Counsel?
I would like to.
Go ahead, Ms. Walls.
I would just like to address the issue of the constitutionality of the ordinance. The ordinance was drafted by County Council and patterned after a similar ordinance out of San Diego County where there was a constitutional challenge and the courts upheld it in that case and others. While this matter the impetus may have been Scientology, as we had later stated on the record that this ordinance wasn't going to apply to the picketing going out on in front of the Scientology base center because there wasn't residences located at that location. So we are not targeting any longer Scientology with this ordinance. Thank you.
Next, Supervisor Stone, and followed by Supervisor Benoit.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess no good deed goes unpunished. I've met with the opponents of the ordinance, and the compromise, we just left a 3-foot corridor for public safety in the event that there's any kind of altercation, has a direct access to make sure that somebody can be taken care of by ambulance if there's violence. It's been shown that it's been upheld by the Constitution. It's been shown that it didn't even apply to the Scientologists that claim that was the origin of its development. It was not written by the attorney for Scientologists. It was written by our own county council. And I will say this, that I still admonish the group Anonymous because I think they're anti-Semitic. I think that they don't like African Americans, and they don't like people that have a sexual preference that's different than the norm. So I don't like hate groups, and I believe that Anonymous is a hate group, and I don't condone their activity. Again, this is, I think, very generous in going from 30 feet to 3 feet. I think it still allows us to appropriately protest sex offenders in this county, which we have almost 3,500 of them. We want to put them on notice that we will proactively protest against their placement in our county. And I hope once and for all that we not link this ordinance to a church that happens to reside in my district. And if people have issues with Scientology, they're more than welcome to come into public comments week after week as we hear. And if there is anything going on there that is not appropriate, not legal, we have a sheriff's department, we have a district attorney's office. That is the individuals that are responsible for ensuring public safety in this county to make sure that people are treated in a dignified and constitutional manner. So the board has the option to obviously bring this back to repeal. I don't think it's in the best interest of our citizens to repeal it. The county of San Bernardino has one, the county of Los Angeles has one, the county of San Diego has one. Ours is the most liberal of all of them. It does not stifle one's ability to protest. It only protects those that are protesting and those that are being protested against in case any altercations, somebody has a heart attack because they get fired up during a protest. That allows public safety officials to be able to get in and do their job. So I am supportive of the 3-foot measure and hope that the board will join me in supporting it as well.
Supervisor Benoit.
Thank you. I was not here when the initial ordinance was passed. This is the first chance I'll have to take a position on it. And I would just like to make a couple of comments before I do that. First of all, Scientology as a topic is one that if you have read at all about it, you couldn't help but be concerned. I'm not sure what's right or wrong on it, but I share the concerns of many who have spoken many times here about it. It is slightly above this board's ability to make decisions on that. It's things like the IRS that has given them a nonprofit status and a falling. I assume they fall under the heading in IRS rules as a church. I certainly understand those who would argue that's not right, but that's not what this ordinance is about, and that's not what we're really voting on. Is not whether Scientology is a church or not, or whether they do bad things to people or not. There's open questions on all of that. What this is about is this paragraph 4, which is the prohibition. No person shall engage in targeting picketing within 30 feet of a property measured from the property line upon which targeted residential dwelling is located, except on the sidewalk space on the opposite side of the street from the targeted residential dwelling. That's the law that this board, approved, and we're now talking about amending. That's what I'm going to focus on. And when you talk about that, we have to consider constitutional rights. I agree with you 100%. We have to very much take into consideration the First Amendment. We also have to balance that against private property rights. There are more than one constitutional right that has to be protected and considered here. Where is the balance between those two constitutional issues? It was decided by the previous board that 30 feet was the balance in this case. I would like to ask a question in a minute of the Sheriff's Department about the difference in going from 30 to 3. Before I get to that, though, let me point out, someone mentioned a court case having to do with protesting in front of an abortion clinic. Different topic. This ordinance, those 50 or so words I just read, deal with protesting in front of a residence, and only in front of a residence. And people, as is cited in the background material, can't quickly change their residence because someone has decided to make it a target of a protest. I'm sensitive to that potential problem. I'm also sensitive to the officers who have to respond and deal with those kinds of things. To say that an officer who's there as a police officer trying to keep the peace is non-responsive to the arguments about how bad Scientology is or whatever, should abortions be legal or not? You don't ask the officer on the street who's trying to enforce the law whether or not he's pro or con abortion when he's trying to make sure that an abortion clinic is not overrun. We all have strong opinions on that, but that's not the job of the officer responding to express or discuss. His only job at that point is maintaining the peace. So when it comes to maintaining the peace, my question is 3 feet sufficient? I appreciate Supervisor Stone's willingness to take a very large amendment to this, but I would question whether 3 feet is sufficient to meet the requirement. Could I ask the Sheriff's Department to make a comment on the difference between 30 feet, 3 feet, and what I might see as a more reasonable, say 10 feet? Good morning.
Good morning. Colleen Walker, Under Sheriff, Riverside County Sheriff's Department. I do think 3 feet is sufficient for us to enforce the ordinance. We'll do whatever the board asks us to do and follow the direction of the board.
While you're up there, I can lean over and stick my arm out, almost get to 3 feet, although I'm probably not as limber as I used to be. But if there's somebody on the other side of 3 feet doing the same thing or has a sign or whatnot, and you folks are in the middle of that, and people are vigorously, but feel that they're peaceably exercising their rights, and you have say, I mean, let's take an extreme example. Perhaps, but say you have 25 people all lined up on 3 feet, and then 25 people lined up on the other side of 3 feet, and all are vigorously exercising their rights as free speech, and they may have banners and signs and all that. Are you going to be able to work through that middle and keep anybody from being just accidentally hit or hurt or whatever?
It's going to depend on the circumstances and the reasonableness of it. Without the ordinance, we would be utilizing the Penal Code Section 602 to enforce the law, and there's not a buffer zone in 602 that I'm aware of. So again, it goes back to the reasonableness of it, and
so you're already dealing with this, even without
yes.
the ordinance, that you have to establish some on the ground specific conditions that you're going to be looking at to keep the peace.
Yes, that's exactly right. Blocking the sidewalk, blocking a driveway, etc. It goes back to the reasonableness of it, and if a person can pass through.
Good. Thanks for that. I thought we needed to have your experience because actually the county here and the Sheriff's Department has a long experience going back to even Cesar Chavez days here in our county of civil protests.
That's right. So, in years past, we've had several different experiences. I personally have experienced many times, whether it be spring breakers in Palm Springs or rave festivals down in the La Quinta County area. There have been multiple times that we've been faced with these type of challenges.
And your young officers get trained in dealing with these protests as well?
Yes, they receive a block in the academy, and then they have ongoing training. Recently, we saw it firsthand with some peaceful protests that occurred down in Rancho Mirage.
All right. And your conclusion, you can work with this ordinance successfully?
Yes.
Good. Thanks.
Is that it?
Any other comments? Ms. Walker made my comment. If I thought this would impede vigorous but peaceable protest, I couldn't support it, but it looks like it's not going to do that. And Supervisor Benoit and Supervisor Stone have made the balancing arguments, so I can support the motion here. Any other comment? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the board's discussion, and certainly if we do have incidents where we do have battling signs and we do see injuries, we can always revisit this and expand that buffer zone if the need occurs. So with that, I'll move that we adopt an order initiating amendment to Ordinance 884, an ordinance regulating targeted residential picketing, taking the distance from 30 feet to 3 feet.
Second.
And please vote.
He doesn't get back from the restroom. He won't.
Apparently not. This item passes with all 4 ayes voting and Supervisor Tavoloni having stepped out. I don't know why. Okay, Supervisor Stone, do you have any other further comments? All right. Well, the events in Tunisia and Egypt have certainly reinforced the importance of protest, and we're in countries that really do not have the rights that we have here. So this is an important matter.